seller?
Oof. What do you mean by pay? Fund the loan? Fund the percent?
Who's paying the commission? Right? Isn't that the big question?
Well, I could point out a contract that says the seller has to pay it. However, the seller, if there's no purchase, has nothing to pay. So the buyer comes with their own proceeds, with their and their loan. Their lender writes a check at the closing, and it could be argued that it's a bit duplicitous, because that commission. Oh, do I want to go? That commission.
I'm watching.
That commission is usually added to the price. It could be a bit of a problem, because that increased price makes higher down payment, higher monthly cost, higher loan amount, higher transfer taxes, and a need for a higher appraisal. So these buyers just kind of willy-nilly place an offer, don't understand that their offer will always include the realtor's commission.
Okay.
Better question is, anyone who's ever dealt with a realtor, are they candid with their compensation? Do they willingly share it? Is it a don't ask, don't tell thing?
Well, what do you think? What's the practice in your office? Right now?
Our office is to be much more candid. I mean, it's a different kind of a company that's more, I would say, client and, of course, agent oriented. However, from what I've seen, and I've seen things all over Manhattan and Long Island, there is a real nice attempt to keep the financial conversation under wraps, to just drive someone around. You're their best friend. Kids play Little League together. You send turkey recipes in the holidays. Maybe bring over.
But that leads us to the next question. You know where I'm going with that, right? Who's being represented here?
Well, there was a world. I guess this was during the dinosaur era.
Yeah, when sub-agency was around. Yeah.
And there was a breakthrough, I would guess, in the late 80s, early 90s, right?
Yeah, I would say early 90s.
Where buyer agency became a thing, and people would...
Well, the agency disclosure, I think, came out around 1991, so it had to be around that time. Right,
exactly. But still, it's still a bit duplicitous, because we could ask our audience, if a realtor or real estate professional says they're going to work for you, you're accepting all of their work and all of their obligations. However, what percentage of our buying public has actually ever committed to one agent and given their own liability for the cost?
Should they?
I think they should. I think that they should. I don't use the L word, loyalty, because that's a personal trait. I use the word liability. And if the realtor is working for you as a fiduciary with your best interest in mind, why isn't it also the same? Why aren't you willing to exchange your liability / loyalty? You have one dentist, one dry cleaner, one...
No, I couldn't agree with you more. What are your thoughts? Call us 914-693-5700 and let us know, where is your loyalty? Do you have loyalty? Are you being represented by your realtor? And here's a better question. Are all real estate agents realtors?
I know the answer. You want to know the answer?
The answer is no. I hope you know the answer.
Well, I mean, let's talk about New York State. I don't even. That was not the perfect question. The perfect question there's the licensed salesperson.
That was not the perfect question?
No, the perfect question is, are all your licensees realtors? Because there's licensed salespersons, then there's associate brokers, then there's brokers. There are brokers in Manhattan or even out in the Hamptons who are not realtors, and a realtor.
Okay.
What does a realtor mean?
Go ahead. Rephrase the question.
Are all licensees? Real estate agent is really just a common term. And then is a realtor synonymous with broker? And the answer is no. We have a realtor.
We have a caller.
Good.
I'm gonna have you stop and let's go to Bob the realtor in Pennsylvania, and he actually says that he is a realtor. Bob, can you hear us? I can hear you. So you say you are a realtor. What does that mean? Yeah, I have to say it that way because it would drive everybody crazy when people say what.
No, it's 2 syllables, not 3.
Realtor. It is not realtor,
Oh,
right? Realtor.
My wife still says realtor all these years.
So tell us, what is the difference between an agent / broker and a realtor, Bob?
Oh, everyone loves that.
Okay,
subject.
who's paying?
Hmm.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with. I mean, in fact, I don't agree with your premise that the value has the broker's commission built in, because let's say in a state matter where there might not be a broker, they may get an independent appraisal and establish the value.
Very good point, Bob.
Mhm.
Very, very good point.
I got it. That might be a. Mm-hmm. So the state makes more because they avoid a broker's commission, and that it's an esoteric example. I agree.
And you can't tell me that you haven't heard buyers come to you and say, I want to make the deal directly with the seller to save the commission.
Right. Right. Sure. Exactly. Right. Well, that's their greedy nature. Got it.
So, Bob, in your opinion, who is paying the realtor?
It's certainly indirect. I mean, it's literally not direct. I've seen some extreme examples where, let's say in the day it was 95% loans, so 5% down. I've seen lawyers hold, because we're talking about our area here, not in Pennsylvania, lawyers hold the down payment, the escrow check, so they hold, that's weird, right? It is weird, we know that, but the lawyers rule here.
It must be nice, Bob, to live in Pennsylvania, huh? Yes, that was a dig to you, all of you lawyers.
An extreme example is a lawyer, in an instance, held a 5% down payment. Well, at the closing, he or she, I don't recall, simply just gave that sum. No, gave the 5%. So if it was picture 500,000, 5% is 25,000. The lawyer held the 25,000 during the pendency of the transaction, and then just took the entirety of that down payment in escrow and handed it to the broker. So really, the deal went on without the down payment. It just was like this little sum of money held in someone's holding pattern and then handed to the broker. So it literally became the exact same sum. Down payment was the same as the broker's commission. Sure, but who cares about us? Do you think buyers are in any way aware that they're paying the brokers to represent the parties? Do you think that when they make an offer, do you think anyone contemplates that, or they exactly? Okay, well then I have a question for Victoria. This is kind of a tough one. Then let's pretend you're a seller.
I'm gonna get a tough
and this
question.
is what happens in, let's say, Pennsylvania too. How do you explain to a seller that they have to pay for the representation of a contractual counterpart? Because that is not seen anywhere else, except in limited instance where, on an as-needed basis, a litigant in a divorce might pay for the other party's representation, like one side can't afford it. But tell me where else. That's a not a good reason. Where else in America are you paying someone in a transaction to represent against you? Nowhere, right? I agree. But the sellers don't know
Do you see this changing?
No.
Because this is what this is all about, right? We're in a movement of change. Do you see that changing?
No.
No.
I know when I see that it's working, and TV shows like $1 Million List. No, they can't be. And the only agent for change there could have been would be what the agents are fearful that Zillow or these third-party syndicators / carpetbaggers, new entrants to the market, might say, wait a minute, I could put your property out on the MLS and avoid that. But I will tell you that that's not changing. There's just the NAR is too robust. We are too dyed in the wool in how we handle things. But just to touch on that last point, think about it. On the old HUD or the new TRID, there's going to be, number one, a line item for the representation for the contractual counterpart, the buyer, right? It's on the back second page. So it's a discernible cost. And maybe worse, I've had clients that say, wait a minute, I'm paying this clown to try to get a lower offer? How counterintuitive is that? That the buyer's agent is having to justify their position.
But you have a seller agent who's your listing agent who's representing you.
Yes, to the best of their abilities. But
right.
That makes sense to pay your advocate, your fiduciary. Does it make any sense to pay for the person representing the other side of the contract wants the lowest price? So you're helping them achieve the lowest price? Do you think sellers are aware of that when they think, here's what they think, and tell me if you agree. They think whatever percentages, we're not going to talk about percentages, 3 apples, 5 apples, 6 apples, whatever the number is, they think that's the cost. They don't realize it's broken up in halves usually, and one side is working against
You think
them.
the seller doesn't realize that?
Yes.
I think the seller realizes that. And I think a good listing agent does explain that properly.
Well, no. They might explain that there's going to be a buyer representation. Do they further go on to explain that you're paying someone who's working for you and you're paying someone who's not working for you? You think they do that at a listing appointment? That doesn't happen.
I don't think they see it that way. I think that they're seeing that this person has brought them a qualified buyer.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Right. So it's. Mm-hmm. And characterize it that way. Okay. Well, the larger issue is that of quote unquote the market, and Victoria touched on the point before that buyers just get in a car if they're qualified and they check out properties, and that was the way it was. They had no other way. This goes back to the search.
Back in the day, they had to come to the office because we controlled all of the information. We had our big MLS books. If you wanted to get into a house, you had to come and see the book.
And I love to say the evolution. That was all the information was inside the 4 walls of that building.
That's right.
Then it seeped out with email. Then it seeped out with.
Well, once the internet came about.
Oh, so what about this? There was cell phones before there's internet, so there was no
That's
texting.
right.
But some agent, my mom was one where I'd be asking her what she's doing, talking to someone at 7:45 at night. So cell phones was the first way to break out of the office. So after business hours, they could give some information. Now it's information is totally available. But the point I want to make is, the realtors regard the MLS as, Victoria, quote unquote, the market? Should, if we know that buyers are searching everywhere, maybe least so with agents, should the MLS or the members of MLS any longer be, quote unquote, and making hand signs, the market, the quote signs? They're not the market. If people can search properties out of the realtors' offices on their own at any time, day or night, then I don't think that the MLS is any longer the market.
Paul, what do you?
That's Bob from Pennsylvania.
Bob.
From Pennsylvania, Penns Woods.